Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. My name is Zach, aka Crochet Me Zaddy, and I'm a crochet plushie maker. I'm a good-at-me artist, pattern designer, all-rounder crocheter person here on the internet. And if you're new here, welcome along. And if you're a returning subscriber, thanks for coming back to check in on little old me. How do I do it? In today's video, we're doing something a little bit different to my normal vlogs. I wanted to do something that was a bit more focused on Patreon because that is something that I've been working on over the past week with a few different changes, which I'll let you know in this video. I wanted to make a video that was more focused on Patreon, but still sprinkled in some of the projects that I have been working on throughout the week. You'll see as it goes on. So I'll go over the details of what Patreon is, why did I make a Patreon, what are the benefits of my Patreon, why should people join Patreon, what is associated behind the scenes with Patreon, and many other things. So stay tuned and find out all the exciting answers to those questions. But without further ado, let me show you what I released last week very excitingly. It was my little kangaroo buddy pattern, which is actually one of my monthly benefits for one of my Patreon benefits. And it was this little cute pattern here. So I was talking about this in the past video. I released it Saturday this past week and it was a super successful launch, so I'm very excited. This is now up on my website if people want to go and download the pattern, or if they're interested in the pattern bundle, you can actually get not only the kangaroo buddy pattern, you can also go get the little Joey buddy pattern as an additional part of the little kangaroo buddy bundle. So it's the little Joey and then the bigger kangaroos, and then also regardless of whether you got the bundle or just the little kangaroo buddy pattern, there is also a boxing kangaroo mod in there as well. So that's all very exciting. So people can go get it. I'll leave a link below, but yay! It's always so exciting getting to release these patterns and put them out in the world. Get to see how the world interacts with my art and gets to create their own art from my art. It sounds a bit weird when I say it out loud, but it's a very cool feeling. I'm just gonna put them all back here so you can see the whole kangaroo family sitting behind me during this entire video, because that's advertising, baby! But yes, as I was saying, this video is primarily talking about Patreon and the ways that I run my own Patreon and why I have a Patreon, etc. Let's just begin with the main question, which is, what is Patreon? I'm glad you asked. I went ahead and I went over to the Wikipedia to help us answer this very question, and it says, Patreon is a monetized platform operated by Patreon Incorporated, which I feel like makes sense. It provides business tools for content creators to run a subscription service and sell digital products. It helps artists and other creators earn a recurring income by providing rewards and perks towards subscribers. So that's pretty much Patreon in a nutshell. It is a membership website. People join Patreon to join the Patreon communities of different artists, creators, and support them and receive special perks in return. And I've also got the way that I described it here when I first released my Patreon. I said, Patreon is a fun and fantastic platform that I am utilizing as a way to benefit those who want to be a part of a fun and inclusive community while also receiving special perks in return. Essentially, I know I have a great community of supporters out there and I want to create a space where I feel I can accept the support while also mutually giving back to them by exclusive pattern benefits and more. So that was essentially what is Patreon in a nutshell, and also my viewpoint on Patreon. It is a site that focuses in on communities and memberships. So whereas you have things like YouTube memberships or even Instagram subscriptions and things, in those sites they're more about like exclusive content, whereas Patreon is more of a place where you can create like a thriving community that is surrounding the art or the content of a creator. I know it sounds very similar between the two, but that's what it is. So in short, I'd say that Patreon is a website that focuses primarily on the creation of communities around artists and creators and creates more or less a exclusive area for those communities to get together and support those creators. Capiche? I feel like there's so many different ways you can describe it, but that's the base level of it all, and I think it's more interesting to hear about why I joined Patreon and what are the benefits for me as a creator, for you as a member, and what is it like behind the scenes for Patreon, because I mean I find that interesting, so I'm going to talk about that anyway. So my journey with Patreon, why did I start one, is probably the most basic question to go for, and I started one because I have been doing crochet for about 4 years now. Well, I've been crocheting for about 6 years, but I've been online. I created the Crochet Me Zaddy brand about 4 years ago, and since then I have created a wonderful community around me, but that community also stretches across multiple areas. It stretches across YouTube, it stretches across TikTok, Instagram, Threads, Facebook. been kind of everywhere, and I have created such a beautiful connection with the world or the crochet world around me, and I've started realizing that I need to create a place where people who want to support me and really want to dedicate something to me as a creator, I needed to facilitate that in some kind of way. So I did look into things like the YouTube memberships or the Instagram subscriptions, and it just felt like that those were also just tying me to those certain apps. So when I found Patreon, I was like, okay, this seems like a trusted place that really prioritizes building communities for creators, and therefore I was like, okay, I'm going to put my trust in Patreon and I'm going to create my community space there in this app. I think one of the best benefits of joining Patreon is that they also have like a Discord community link between Patreon and Discord. And if you don't know what Discord is, Discord's also like another community app. I don't know if I want to go into too much detail, but you can also host different conversations over there, video calls over there. It used to be a place where gamers would link up and they would all jump on video calls or like stream games together. That was the basis of Discord, but now it's become more of a community space where people can ask questions and have community, almost like blogs. It's almost like a Facebook group in a kind of way. But anyway, so they've got that space from the Discord app, and then they've added it to this space on Patreon where artists can share posts and share updates and things like that. So it's a very conjoined effort going between the two apps. And when I started my Patreon, I was like, okay, cool. These are all the things that I need to ensure that I can actually capture the fun and creative community that I've surrounded myself with and provide them a space to almost like celebrate. It sounds weird to be like, say that they can like celebrate my art and celebrate being a part of my community, but I guess that's how it really is that I have created this community, and I know people who relate with me would also relate with each other, and it's cool to see people thrive together on that mutual interest in what I do. Oh my god, it does sound so weird. Or what I do and the stuff that I put out there, as in my humor, my vision for community, and my art. So when I joined Patreon, to be honest, I had never really used Patreon before. It was a place that I knew I wanted to grow a community on, but I was also a noob there and I didn't know what to do. So when I first got on there, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't like overexerting myself as a creator with all the benefits that I could provide. So I jumped on there and I created a small amount of benefits for my community. They were more of an automated feel. So I focused in on just one tier level only, because you can have multiple different tier levels for multiple amounts of benefits, just so you understand. But I focused on just having one singular tier level, and that was all about my pattern benefits and then just like a small amount of community benefits. So people would be joining my Patreon, they'd be getting a free pattern, they'd be getting a discount to my store, they'll be getting a monthly pattern as well, and then a few other benefits. They were all very much surrounded around this pattern exclusivity. It was just more or less like people who wanted to really make my patterns but have them subscribe to my patterns for cheaper rather than buying them every month when they released anyway. And so I wanted to start off with that because I could easily just automate that. It wouldn't take too much out of my day to manage that, and it worked. So I started off having a good chunk of my community from across the apps joining in, then they were getting these benefits. That's kind of how it's rolled since then. But then what I noticed over the last 3-4 months since I started that back in November was that it wasn't really feeling like a very connected community. It was more or less like, okay, you've subscribed to almost like my magazine or my something like that, where I just send out this like quick monthly thing and be like, cool, thanks everyone, see you to the next month. And so it felt very hands off, and that wasn't really what I envisioned, but it was good to get a taster for what I could have as a baseline for my Patreon and then what I could grow my Patreon to be. And so because my background is all about continuous improvement and everything like that, and also just for more understanding, my background is in learning and development, adult education, and I was also the head of many social clubs in my old workplaces. So this was all very much a familiar space for me. So as I was saying, so my background is all about like continuous improvement. So I reached out to everyone on my Patreon and I asked them, what do I need to improve on? What do you want to see more of? What do you want to see less of? What would make it easier for you being here? Everything like that, because people are coming into this Patreon to support me, and I need to make sure that I am mutually supporting them in a way that feels either equal or more to what they're giving me. Otherwise, I wouldn't be comfortable doing the whole Patreon thing. It needs to feel like an exchange of some sort. Even though I know people are out there and they're just like willing to give me money, which That sounds absolutely wild. Please let me mutually benefit you in some way, please. And so I did this survey and I got the results back, and a lot more people were asking for more of a community side of things. They were really happy with how everything was going, but they just needed that extra connection to me as a creator or to others within the community. And so I took that on board, and then I took my tier levels and I expanded them into 4 different areas, and I added different features across the board. I added just one tier, which was for people who aren't really necessarily like crocheters. They just enjoy my content and they just wanted to support me, and so it's like a tipping tier, so they just give me like $2 a month, which is, I'm super grateful. So thank you so much for everyone who's joined that tier as well. And then I've got my standard, which is the patterns tier where I started off. So it's called the buddies tier, and that's where all those same benefits still sit. The only thing I've changed is that I've now included an invite to the community events, which I'll explain a little bit more. And then I've got my buddies extra tier. So this is people who really love my patterns, are really enjoying the content I put out there, but they can also now access extra patterns. It's gonna sound a bit weird, but I'll try to explain it the best that I can. Extra patterns and accessories and mods. So a lot of my patterns here have different accessories and mods. Like one of the ones I literally just mentioned before was my boxing kangaroo. So this here, the boxing gloves, is a mod to my standard arms that I have on a lot of my different buddy patterns, but the boxing glove can also like double as a mitten, and I've just taken that little portion of the kangaroo pattern and I've uploaded it into a little library for people for that tier level to enjoy. And then the other one was, it's kind of like a patterns vault in a way, and I'm still growing it currently, but it's more or less a place where there will be unreleased patterns or patterns that I'm not necessarily planning on getting tested or released or anything anytime future because of potentially copyright reasons or things similar. And the kind of things that will be going into that, there's one of them working on very recently, which you may have seen over my threads, is this little Jolteon buddy. So I've always wanted to make like a bunch of Pokemon patterns, but I've not really wanted to like list them on my Etsy and things in fear of those copyright issues. And so patterns like this little Jolteon are going to be uploaded and left there for people in that tier level or above to enjoy. So very cool. And then the 4th tier level that I've added in would have the benefits from all the ones previous, and it's called the deluxe tier, and that's where people can come along and vote for a podcast topic for me to talk about monthly. So this month we're doing one that I've decided to start off the topic myself, and it's going to be about my opinions on different yarn companies and my experiences working with them, whether I'd work with them again, and just giving my honest insights about what these companies are like, how they've treated myself or treated my friends, etc, etc. So a little bit gossipy, a little bit juicy, but a lot of fun. So that'll be uploaded soon and only accessible by people in that tier level. But as I mentioned before, across the board there was also an added feature of a Patreon community event, and that is more or less doing like crochet alongs or games nights or movie nights. We're just gonna see how that one goes, but it's definitely something that people have been asking for me, is to be a bit more present or giving like my exclusive time to my Patreon, and that's something I'm very keen and willing to do, especially with my background and being a social club leader. So I was like, okay, I can pull out a night where we have fun little activities and play games and have a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to that, and that'll be happening early May would be our first one, so I can't wait. As you can see, I started off in one area where I had a certain standard of benefits I wanted to offer. I wanted to test out if they work or not, and then I've expanded that to 4 different tiers and lots of many different benefits across the different tier levels that people can enjoy depending on how much they want to support me. So very exciting. Will my benefits change again is a question that I know a few people have been asking, and the likelihood is yes. Like, I don't know if they will work as they are now. The way I'm approaching my benefits and the perks that I offer to my community is more or less a offering of what I can offer at this current moment, and I always want to hear the feedback from my community. And if there's things that aren't working, then I'll change them, and if there's things to add, then I'll add things, or if there's things to remove, then I'll remove them. And that's just what Patreon is like. Like, if something is not working for me as an artist and I can't fulfill that perk for people, then I don't want to be like overdoing it for myself, trying to put out benefits that aren't benefiting me. That has to be like that mutual exchange. Like, I have to enjoy the community that I'm creating and want people to know that I'm enjoying it too. So if my benefits will stay the same, they'll stay the same for at least a little while longer, and then I will change them depending on if people are enjoying them or not. that's that. A bit about behind the scenes. I know a lot of people are asking me how much do I actually earn from Patreon and is it worth it? I would say it's worth it because as a pattern designer, a lot of my income actually comes from patterns and selling these patterns online, which you can find on my store, www.crochetmezaddy.com/shop. Aside from that, like trying to sell things and have a steady income is pretty nerve-wracking as a creator, especially because the only apps that actually provide us income is probably YouTube. I get like maybe $10 a month from Facebook, which is exciting and very, very cool, but that's not gonna pay my inner city Melbourne rent. So yeah, I need to find different ways where I can really secure a recurring amount of money that I know is going to be coming in monthly and that I can really rely on to survive as a creator and as an artist. And the only ones that do that is, well, yes, Facebook, and then YouTube, and then Patreon. So that's why I say in a lot of my videos, I'm very grateful to everyone on my Patreon because yes, I am. And the more people have joined my Patreon has meant that I'm almost been able to reach my goal of just living as a full-time creator, artist, business owner person. It's all very exciting. So when I say, is it worth it? Yes, it's worth it. But let me just tell you a bit of the insights that I've had, because I think it's good for us to be open about our incomes as creators so people can understand that not all creators are earning the same. You might see some people with a lot more followers than me or even an equal amount, and they might have like way more people in their Patreon or way less. We're all on different journeys here as like sorting out our creator incomes, and I am by no means someone who is earning mega bucks from what I do. I am earning I think I'm earning a good amount, but that's because I've put in a lot of work in the past 4 years to get where I am today, and I'm hoping to grow over the next few years, so fingers crossed. But anyway, so let me just tell you about what I earned on Patreon just to get an understanding, and all of this is in US dollars, by the way. So in November 2023 was when I opened my Patreon, and I think I had roughly around 100 members who I am all very grateful for joining me over there. And my first month I earned $647.13. So since then it's been about 6 months. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2. Well, the last payment that I can actually check the data on is March, and I am earning $715.40. So it's definitely a good amount that I'm getting there, but as you can see, it hasn't been like the most quickest growth, but it's still growing, which is really, really exciting for me as an artist. But I still need to get that little bit more to become a full-time creator that can rely on my Patreon income alongside my pattern sales, etc, etc. One thing to note, I only just gave you the gross revenue then, so that was actually the entire amount that I will have earned on Patreon, but that doesn't include the payment fees and the platform fees. Patreon takes a chunk of your money. Much like our friends over on Etsy, they love to take a little bit of a big swipe of your money as they're paying it to you. For my last payment, so when I had that gross revenue of $715.40, the payment fee to Patreon was $64, and then the platform fee on top of that was $57.39. So they took just over $100 in fees for running it on this platform, which that is wild. I'm not very happy about that, but I also understand that this is just how these platforms work. Much like Etsy takes a chunk out of your money, which is why I don't really advertise that I'm on there, although I am. They will take a chunk out of your money because they provide a great platform for people to grow. And potentially in the future, I might move to another app should they give me the same benefits that Patreon can. But for now, I'm happy with Patreon, and I'm just gonna have to take the hit. And just for your understanding, my earnings total that actually came into my pocket was $594.01. So it's still a good amount, not enough to cover my rent, but it's still a nice chunk to be getting on a monthly recurrence. But to say whether it's worth it or not, I think at this stage it will be worth it. I think as I earn more money, they're gonna take more money from me, but I'll still be earning more earnings at the end. And I think, yeah, that's just what I'm just gonna have to live with until maybe there's another app that shows up that can provide all these benefits or not. I don't know. In the long run, I think it is worth it for what they can provide as a website or as a service to me as a creator. The other thing that a lot of people have been asking me about is how much time and effort do I put into Patreon, and is it worth it that way? And I would say it is. For me, when I did those first 3-4 months where I was just doing the very standard pattern benefits out there. That was, as I said, very automated. And so all I was really doing was popping by like once or twice a week. I'd provide some updates. Maybe I'd show people the next pattern I'm working on, and then I'd just leave. And that wasn't really that much, but if that was all I was intending on doing for my community, then there wasn't really much time put into that. But because I want to grow my community and they want me to grow it as a community place to thrive, then I have to put in more effort as well. So as someone who works full-time on their content creation, regardless of whether I have another part-time job as well, I've had to change a few things with my daily schedule, and I'm probably putting in at least maybe like half an hour to an hour every day on average to just jump in and make sure that my Patreon is flowing well. I'm communicating with people on the Discord, within the messages that people send me, and making sure it's a really thriving place, because it's one of the only places that I'm actually getting paid from, and I need to make sure it grows, and I need to make sure that I'm putting my efforts in there. So if you're someone who is struggling across the different apps to really control that life balance and that balance of marketing yourself out on social media and things, then I don't know if this would necessarily be the best idea, unless you're prepared to really sacrifice some of the time on those apps to really support the community that's supporting you. Future plans with Patreon. This is the last little thing that I want to talk about with Patreon. As I mentioned before, I will probably be changing a few of the benefits in the future. I want to be continuously improving. I really want to make this a nice place for everyone who is in my Patreon. And I guess if there is a better app that comes along, then I will jump over to that, because I am a little bit, those fees are pretty concerning. But for now, things are going to stay as they are. I'm happy with what it is. I think Patreon's a great place, and I hope this all gave you a little bit more of an insight for why I'm on Patreon and whether or not you want to come join me over there. I know this sounds like it is a little bit of like an advert for what I've been working on over on Patreon, and I guess it is, and I guess it's just a nice way for me to like explain myself as a creator for why I've come to make this decision on Patreon and why I have one and why I'm always asking people to join it and things. So hopefully you've all got a bit more of understanding of myself as a creator and those behind the scenes ideas. As I said, I was going to sprinkle in a bit more about the different projects that I've been working on lately, and one of those things, I didn't actually mention it at all in these benefits and things, was that the monthly pattern that I put out there. So originally I was just like putting out whatever pattern I felt like, and I think having the Patreon, it really prompted me to do that on that monthly basis. So that's why I have like the little red panda and raccoon back here, and then I had the otter and the teddy bear, and then I have the kangaroos. But what I've done now is I've changed it so everyone who is in my buddy tiers on my Patreon, they can actually vote from the 4 ideas that are like top of mind for me. This past month I put through 4 ideas. I actually provided them the sketches that I drew in my notes, which are horrendously drawn because I'm a crochet artist, I'm not a drawing artist, and then I got them to vote for what they think would be the best, and they voted for this little cutie over here. So this is, it's not sewn together yet, but you will still get an idea. I wanted to do something for Pride Month coming up, and what we voted on was this little cutie, the Pride Chameleon. So it's this derpy looking chameleon, and it's wearing a pride sweater, and it's just so cute. It's so stupid. I love it. The idea behind this pattern is that I wanted to create something that would be great for Pride Month, so everyone would make it in May and then it'll be ready for June. So it'd be great for Pride Month, and I was like trying to think, I was like, what kind of animal is like very rainbowy, has lots of different colors? What could I do there? And then I was like, oh my god, like chameleons, they change their colors to match their scenarios. And I was like, maybe I could make like a chameleon that matches all the different pride flags. Or I could just make a chameleon that's wearing a little pride sweater that you can change to have different pride flag colors. And then I can actually use that pride sweater as one of my accessories for one of my other tier levels in the Buddies Extra, where they have access to all my different mods and accessories. So I was like, oh my god, duh. So this one, thankfully, it's the one that won the vote, because this is the one that I wanted to win, and this is the prototype design, but I'm already in love with it. I think I'm gonna give it like a little tongue that sticks out the side there, because you know how like chameleons lick their eyes? Yeah? Anyway, that's what I'm gonna continue working on in the next vlog. That is what is coming up in May. And I'm very, very excited to see where that goes and all the different patterns that are gonna be voted for by my Patreon over the next few months. As a vlog, I think that's actually all I wanted to jump on here and tell you guys about, because I feel like I've just jumped on and just started talking at you and showing off a few different projects. So I'm actually gonna leave this vlog here, and this isn't gonna be like a multi-day vlog, because I've got other things I wanna show you, like a few more of the Pokemon patterns and a few other projects that I'm working on, but I'll leave that all in another video. So I just want to say a big thank you to everyone who is currently on my Patreon, who has enjoyed all the different Patreon changes and is really thriving over there in my community. I'm so thankful for you all. As I said before, as you can see through my earnings and things, we're almost there as a full-time creator, and it was actually mind-blowing that you all want to jump over and help little old me. And so if anyone else wants to jump over my Patreon, come join the community, come join in the fun, all the different patterns that are coming, and it's just exciting. I'll end the video there, and I can't wait to see you all in the next one, which I don't know what I'll be talking about in the next one. Pokemon patterns? Will it be my pricing video for my next market? Who knows? But it's gonna be fun, and I love seeing you all there. So don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe on this video, and I will see you all in the next one. Kapow! No, what's the word? Bye! Why did I say kapow? Okay, see ya. Hey!